Hey guys, I think it's time to talk about a Benchmade and what a wicked Benchmade it is. Stick with me. You're going to like this one. Hi gang, Rob here. It is the evening of 1 March 2015. And yeah, it's time for a little from the Sharpening bench video on a Benchmade I've never had in hand before. This one belongs to my subscriber and sharpening customer, Sam. Actually, I've got a pile of knives from Sam here. And I don't know that this Benchmade 860 Bedlam was really high on his list of his knives that needed sharpened. It had a factory edge and it was pristine. Well, Benchmade factory edge. But he had not seen a review of this knife on the channel and asked if I would like to take a look at it and put an edge on it while it's here. And oh, guys, this thing's unbelievable. In a lot of ways, there's nothing new here. And in some ways, well, there's really nothing new because the blade shape is centuries old. So let's look at what we've got. First of all, it is a garden variety axis lock Benchmade. No need to go into detail on the locking mechanism. Super strong, super user friendly, easy to manipulate, opening and closing. It has an Achilles heel, the tiny Omega springs inside the handle that actuate the lock. However, I've never seen one break. I've heard of them breaking. Have customers who had them break. But all in all, the axis lock is a fine mechanism. You can tell I'm left-handed, can't you? Okay, moving on. The blade shape is a trailing point or scimitar shape, crafted of a grinder satin finished 154 cm stainless steel, 1/8 inch thick. Blade length is just a hair under 4 inches. I mean, like 3.97 by my measurement. There is it is flat ground or saber ground from about 2/3 of breadth down, with an extremely attractive swedge, nicely ground. And I don't know if you can see this, but this short run of spine between jimping and swedge is very nicely crowned. A very high level of finish on this blade from Benchmade, more so than we're used to seeing, and it's really done well. I think those swedge grinds are pretty symmetrical, as is the main grind of the blade. Very nicely done. No side to side play, no up and down, in a not quite free swinging blade as I've set this one up, getting ready to head home. Blade centering, well guys, it's a near 4 inch Benchmade. What do we think we're going to get? Oh, not perfect, but pretty good. Guys, that's a long way to keep a thinly ground piece of steel straight. Trust me, it is. Just nicely done. This blade, I think, is available a couple different ways. This satin finish coated with Benchmade's dubious BK1 coating. I think there's even a partially serrated model available out there. So 1/8 inch stock, 4 inch blade, 5 15/16 inch handle. As long and swoopy and gorgeous as that blade is, when you look at it dead broadside in that almost 6 inch handle, it manages to look stubby. It really does. Kind of weird, actually, because it's I guess we've got a lot of pommel sticking out, this sort of skull crusher steel, or maybe, I don't know, what is that, steel, aluminum? I didn't look it up. Probably steel, as butt heavy as this knife is. But we got a little backspacer that protrudes from the nicely 3D machined G10 handle scales, suitable for a non-lethal or lethal impact device as our friend Nutton would say. We've got a 2-bolt or 2-screw fold-over clip. As you guys know, not my favorite Benchmade clip. They're kind of weak. They break and they don't retain very well. But on this knife, very welcome, because this clip is about as highly mounted as it can be, and there's still, gosh, more than half an inch of knife sticking out behind it. So it's kind of the clip that's dictated by the design on this knife. It is tip up only, left or right hand carry. Lanyard hole in the backspacer. Not that I would probably use a lanyard on a knife this long with as much sticking out of pocket as it has. So, and I didn't mention, we have another backspacer up here that appears to be some kind of plastic, and it is retained by 1 screw, and then the front of it goes into a groove, so it has like a tab that locks into a groove in the liners, and then 1 screw back here. It's kind of an oddly constructed knife, isn't it? So I've got a screw head on this side with a knurled nut that grips into the G10 on this side. The stop pin has a screw on each side, and then on the same side where there's a screw head for the backspacer, the mid spacer I guess, there are female cups in the backspacer with the screw heads on the other side. Just not much flow going on in the construction choices made by Benchmade. You know, pick a fastener and stick with it. And I don't know, I just like to see all the screw heads and all the female cups on the other. You know, let's keep it consistent. Just me. Kind of what I like to see. The pivot is a 2-screw pivot with a D-shaped barrel. Big and strong. The jimping, again, this is the second Benchmade in a row I've looked at that has actually fairly functional jimping. Huh. This not as good as the Nakamura, but still pretty good, aided by that perfectly placed thumb ramp. Let's see how many ways we can grip this thing. We can come forward into what's not quite a forward choil, resting the thumb on that crown spine for fine work. And this knife, extremely capable of fine work, guys. That secondary bevel you're looking at is 15 degrees per side, pretty well laid back and nice and thin behind the edge. And then standard saber grip in the first finger groove. Could even come back on this thing, kind of like many an XL cold steel, get sort of a pistol grip on it. What do we think, guys? From index finger to blade tip, almost 6 inches of reach if you gripped a knife in this fashion. And pretty doggone comfortable in all those grips, I must say. If you were using it for draw cuts in this grip, pretty comfortable again. And of course, you might expect in the reverse grip, the knife really excels. It's not an EDC knife. It's not even kind of a large utility knife. It's a dedicated fighting knife is what this knife is. Dedicated folding fighting knife. And it's not light. That's 7.2 ounces. Frankly, though, it does not feel like 7.2 ounces. Not even close. It is very butt heavy. Look, the balance point is in the second finger groove. I mean, it is really butt heavy. If I try to balance it in the first finger groove, I mean, it dies. It is dead in the second groove. So if you're in a forward grip, the knife just feels like nothing because all the weight is back here. But if you wanted to come back on the knife, could you get some shearing force? You know, with the pinky on that pommel? Yeah, you could. Guys, I am not a knife fighter. Really don't want to be a knife fighter. However, Could this device be employed in such an occasion quite effectively? I think so. Now, I said it's not an EDC knife. It's not even really a heavy-duty utility blade. But this thing could peel off some flesh. I'm telling you what. I'm curious. I did not measure this, so I'm not gonna do this on camera because it's a real pain. I'm gonna take a measurement of the thickness of the knife behind the edge. Yeah, 22 thousandths, guys. Behind my 15-degree per side secondary bevel, 22 thousandths thick. That is a slicer. Let's see if I'm telling you right. Oh yeah. A little hard to maneuver with all this handle. Yeah, it is a wicked, wicked slicer. As you guys know, 154 cm takes such a beautifully fine edge and a nice polish. But could you imagine making some slashing cuts with this thing? Making some angles? I mean, this blade would be in flesh for a long time coming across, and oh, just look at, can you see the effectiveness of that Persian sort of scimitar trailing point in a slash? I mean, it's going long and deep into flesh. You guys know I'm sort of a Bowie guy, but that trailing point is kind of like a Bowie on steroids when it comes to slashing, isn't it? This is fully stainless steel lined, although quite relieved for weight. It's just a long handle with a big heavy backspacer that makes it 7.2 ounces. Let's take a look at the fit and finish, shall we? Benchmade's grinder satin without stonewash. If there is one, it's very light. I think I see some little scratches there, but I kind of prefer just the satin appearance on this blade. I did have a little issue in my normal spot. There is no beard or sharpenable knife material below the ricasso in this knife, which is problematic for a Benchmade because with an axis lock, because the stop pin rests in this area, the closed stop pin. I can't really make that relief, so it's kind of precarious making that edge look good all the way to the back. I did lengthen the ricasso just ever so slightly. One side came out better than the other with my sharpening, just because of the difference in the lengths of the plunge grinds from side to side. But overall fit and finish on this knife are excellent. Just excellent. It's almost kind of a tale of two knives, isn't it? You look at this handle, blackened stainless steel liners, kind of roughly hewn 3D machine G10. Kind of looks like all-American black fighting knife. And then you come out here, you have this elegant, beautifully ground Persian style blade, and all together it just works. It doesn't add up on paper. Ridiculously long handle to blade ratio. It seems like it would be too heavy at over 7 ounces for a 4-inch blade, and no excuse for it because the blade stock's only 1/8 of an inch thick. But the handle's 6/10 of an inch thick and butt heavy. I gotta believe that butt heavy is so you can generate some momentum in a snap cut, which it would. Like I said, I ain't no knife fighter, but you guys who are know what to do with this blade, don't you? Just a great Benchmade. the neat thing about them is they can use the same materials and the same mechanism so effectively in such a broad range of knives. You know, the Axis lock is just as effective in a 707 sequel at 2 7/8 inch blade length, a gentleman's folder, as it is in an Adamas, you know, basically a folding survival knife, and everything in between, because the mechanism is so strong yet so light to use. I mean, it's just amazingly user friendly. I wish I were better at it. It's so hard in confined spaces, especially with a new knife that I'm not super used to. Just nicely done. This is probably not a knife I'm ever going to buy, just because my size and weight tastes are different, but I sure do appreciate it. Just nicely done. That's all for this one, guys. Thought you'd like to see this before it goes home. Grace to you and peace from God our Father and the Lord Jesus Christ. And remember, the Word and Sam's Bedlam are sharp.